We're taking a look at hierarchy. Hierarchy is what do you see first? What do you see second? What do you see third? And before I go there, I just want to show you the different groupings here. This is a graphic design, and you can see that there is a grouping right here that consists of an image and a headline. Then there is a grouping over here. There's a grouping of text over here, and you can even maybe consider that headline or subheading as a separate group. There is this group. It is a Victrola. And then there is this group of text right here. So notice how it's grouped, and then notice the order. This is what we see first. We see the image, the main image, the emphasis is the main image, and along with it is this headline. They are working together sort of as a 1-2 punch. Now, before we go any further in the idea of hierarchy, I want to explain how well this is working, and that this is something when you're doing advertising you want to consider in almost all the situations. Not always. You can always break rules if you have a good reason to do it. But in general, if you're doing advertising, it's really a good idea to have a strong emphasis image, that focal point that draws you in, that attracts our attention, and you have it working in close proximity. They are connected by how close they are to each other. It's working in close proximity with the headline because it does two things. An image can give us emotion and tone. When we see an image, we just react to it. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to read anything. We don't have to decode anything. We just feel. We can't help but feel when we see something. In this case, this is a guy, he's happy, so we're going to kind of feel happy. And he's got a can to his ear, so we kind of know he's communicating in some way, and he's happy about it. But that's about all we can get from the image. If it didn't have the headline, we wouldn't really know specifically what is making him happy in this communication. It is actually the headline, the text, that we have to take a little bit of time to read and decode. The text can give us more detailed information, but it takes longer to get it to us. And an image can give us more emotional and direct information, but it's not as detailed. That is why them working together is so powerful. It's sort of like, as I said, a 1-2 punch. 1, we feel a certain way. 2, we get more detail as to why we feel that way. So that's how a headline and a main image, or a headline and a focal point, will work together to be very effective in advertising. Now we're going to consider this whole thing as a group, and as I mentioned, this is the point of emphasis. This is what we see first, but then notice that we have this string. Well, we have these other groups that we need to take into consideration, and notice this line is helping us go through and see which groups we want to see next. If you can follow along, we're attracted here, we come down here, and this group of text we're going to see because we're directed that way. Plus, notice there's a lot of space that is giving this a lot of room to breathe. And so whenever we offset something by space, it makes it more attractive. We're coming down here, and this is large, and it is a different kind of type style, and it has high contrast to it. So we're going to see that next. Notice we're traveling down here, and we see this picture right here, this Victrola, and then finally we're guided down here to this red text, and that way we take in the whole piece. One other thing I want to mention on this piece is you'll notice that the hierarchy is pretty much two-dimensional. What I mean by that is everything is sort of on the same layer. Everything is on a flat piece of paper. Yes, these images are three-dimensional looking images, but in reality, all of those groups of elements on this page are sitting on the same layer. So the order that we see things, the hierarchy that we see things, is really just going flat across the page. Here we see hierarchy, and there's a little more depth to it. There's a little more dimensionality to it. We're not just being guided across a flat page. Really, we have some front to back as well. Yes, we are guided across the flat page, of course, and I'll show you that in a second, but we also are guided to what we see first, second, and third based upon what is in front and what is a layer behind and a layer behind that. Notice size is the main focal point element here. This sunflower is so big that it demands quite a bit of attention, and it's offset by a lot of space. So that is the first thing we see. That is the main point of emphasis. There's a couple of other things that are helping us. We do have a line that's sort of guiding us to that. And the way that this flower is facing, it's facing this way. So notice the line here and the flower facing this way is guiding us to the next area that we're going to see, which is the bird. So we're by the flower, we're being guided down here towards the bird. And that bird is offset by color and space. It is emphasized because of color and space. There's quite a bit of space around that bird. You can see that space all around it right here. So that helps us see the bird second. And then, of course, we see what the bird is standing on. And the bird is standing on this little fence post right here. And so that's what we see third. And notice the direction of the fence post catches us to see this leaf. And then we probably see that leaf fourth. And then we're coming around again. So we could keep going over and over again. This is sort of a circular way that we see this image. The other thing I want to note is that the emphasis of the sunflower also is because it is in front. It is in perspective. We, as we see in the real world, see things in perspective, and things that are larger typically are closer to us. So we see those things first. We'll notice the bird and the post is behind, in a layer behind the sunflower, and then behind that is this background of texture. Here is a photograph. The reason we have these principles and elements of design that we are discussing is because they come from how we as human beings see the real world. Here is a picture, it's a photograph, but it could easily be something you're seeing as you look out the window of some vacation cabin. And as you look out into the real world, you make decisions about what to look at first, what to look at second, what to look at third, based upon these principles and elements that we're discussing. It applies to the real world, which is why we can use them to apply to our design. You probably see this ocean first. And the reason why you probably see the ocean first is because of contrast. Contrast in the texture of everything else and contrast in the color of everything else. Then what you see next is probably this rock formation right here. And the reason you probably see that next is because of shape. It has a familiar dinosaur kind of shape. So when things take on a familiar shape, like looking into the clouds and seeing different things in the clouds, when they take on a familiar shape, they draw your attention. In addition to the shape drawing our attention to that rock formation, you'll notice that this landscape area here and these stairs are also guiding our attention toward that. And maybe even these rock cliffs are guiding our attention towards that as well. So you see a lot of things directing our attention to that rock formation. So what we do is we see the ocean 1, we see the rock formation 2, and then we probably just sort of scan around the rest. It might be that way, or it might be something like this. So as you can see, in the real world, all of these principles and elements are happening all around us. So start taking a look at the real world and see all of these principles and elements all around you.